Hey guys, and welcome back to the Aether Hub. I'm Simon, bringing you another Magic the Gathering video. Commander Legends is bringing us loads of important characters from MTG's storied past and finally giving them cards of their own. At the same time, Commander Legends is also answering some long-standing questions that exist in MTG lore that had, until today, remained mysterious. Such is the case of one of the greatest mysteries on the Plane of Innistrad. Who was the long-lost 4th Archangel of Innistrad, a sister of light lost? And what was her fate? It seems we finally get some answers in this long-standing question with the card, Liesa, Shroud of Dusk. And quickly, before we learn more about this character, I just wanted to remind you guys that our Patreon has just launched with some really fun rewards for those looking to support our content. Signed cards, early access to videos, and other rewards you can check out in the link below. And with that, let's get back to the lore. Liesa, Shroud of Dusk is a 5/5 legendary angel for 2 generic, double white, and a single black mana. Rather than pay 2 generic for each previous time you've cast this spell from your command zone this game, pay 2 life that many times instead. Whenever a player casts a spell, they lose 2 life, and Liesa herself has, as you'd expect from an angel, flying and lifelink. Her card in Commander deals a lot with costing you life, but at the same time soaking some of that back with her own lifelink, almost evening out depending on how many spells you play. So what's the story with her take a little, give a little bit more design? Liesa, Shroud of Dusk hails from the Plane of Innistrad, a dark world full of terrifying monsters, ghastly geists, and generally things that want to eat and or haunt human beings, which are the primary sentient living creature types on Innistrad. Where humans reside, regardless of how evil and hopeless the plane may be, hope seems to always spring forth, and with that hope comes angels. Like most angels throughout the multiverse, angels on Innistrad are deep collections of white mana, mixed with other sources, to give a physical form to purpose. On Innistrad, the humans here had a deep desire to, not be eaten alive every single night and be turned into shambling corpses or werewolves. So the angels that were born from their hope defended them against the shadows of night, their purpose to protect the innocent from those who would do them harm. In the beginning, only 4 angels were created. These were known as the original Archangels of Innistrad. These were the sisters, Bruna, Gisela, Sigarda, and a 4th previously unknown angel that we now know is Liesa. From their creation, the Archangels went on to create other angels to match their own distinct niche ideals, creating flights to better help the people of Innistrad. Because these 4 Archangels differed slightly in the way that they practiced their duties, each leaning slightly towards a secondary mana source that helped create them, their flights fought back the forces of evil in slightly different ways. Gisela was known to be the most pro-human, pro-living angel, as her and her flight fervently fought against the monsters that actively hunted humans throughout Innistrad. The likes of undead, vampires, and werewolves were some of Sigarda's most hated enemies. Now that's not to say the other flights didn't fight against these same forces. They most certainly did, but while Sigarda took a more direct approach, the other flights used different techniques to protect their people. Take Bruna for example, whose flight actually protected the dead. A weird take on Innistrad for an angel, right? While the Flight of Alabaster, as they were known as, actually personified the blessed sleep, the idea of a peaceful death for the people of Innistrad. On this plane, death is anything but simple. When you die, you could become a walking undead or a ghost that returns to haunt or do harm to even your own relatives. Necromancers are always on the prowl for fresh corpses to stitch abominations out of. Bruna and her flight protected this transition and ensured that no humans, dead or alive, would be corrupted by dark forces. By contrast, Sigarda and her flight are known as the protectors of life. By that I mean the protection of human societies and settlements. She bolsters holy wards that fend off monsters, and also helps those fight against the curse of lycanthropy, or in other words, protects people from turning into werewolves. See, while all slightly different, each sister worked to protect the humans of Innistrad, but there was one who was considered extreme in her practices, the lost sister, Liesa. And these practices are why Liesa and her flight have been lost to Innistrad's history. Like the other Archangels, her sisters, Liesa was created and driven to protect the humans of Innistrad at all costs. While the other angels in their flights fought outwardly against their enemies, Liesa took a different, more diplomatic approach. She went out to understand the denizens of Innistrad, people and monsters alike, learn about them, learn their desires and what motivated them to do the gruesome things that they did. Sometimes it boiled down to just a simple formula of, well, they eat people as a food source. But Liesa learned that more complicated monsters like demons, devils, and vampires could in fact be reasoned with, bargained with even, as a means to creating long-lasting pacts that could keep people safe. Obviously, as an Angel of Innistrad, making deals with demon lords isn't the best look, especially if your sacred duty is to protect people and people alone. Demons lie and cheat. Their word can never be trusted, but still, Liesa and her flight believed that there was great benefit to learning about their enemies, and maybe, just maybe, some of these foul creatures could become guardians of life. And just a quick side note, as crazy as her sisters claimed Liesa to be in this thinking, Sigarda did just the same thing in the original story of Innistrad when converting some werewolves to the Wolfear, aka werewolves who protect humans. So yeah, it's not that crazy of an idea. But this is where we see the inspiration for Liesa Shroud of Dusk's card design. Making deals with devils and demons can surely set your relationships back with humans quite a bit. But for everything that she bargained the demons would get, the 2 life you're gonna pay for your spells, Liesa would hit back and make sure she gained just as much, if not a little bit more, for the humans that she sought to protect, aka the 5 life that you gained with her lifelink. Still, this put her at odds with other angels, and even her sisters at times. Though, as they were created together, they all shared a bond that would prevent them from real harm coming between them. And this is how Innistrad operated for a long time, until another angel was thrown seemingly out of nowhere into the mix. The greatest angel ever on Innistrad, the Archangel Avacyn. In the history of Innistrad, passed down by the mortal people by word of mouth, Liesa is a lost relic, and in their teachings, Avacyn was the 4th sister of the original Archangel flights. The leader of all angels, the most powerful symbol of balance and hope to citizens of this dark world could ever ask for. But this was in fact a false history. The truth was much darker. Avacyn appeared to the 4 angelic sisters out of nowhere because she was in fact formed from nowhere. Unlike a traditional angel, Avacyn wasn't born of pure hope and white mana. She was handcrafted by a powerful spell. Yes, Avacyn was an artificial angel, who was created, quite ironically, by a vampire. The planeswalker and self-declared Lord of Innistrad, Sorin Markov. Sorin saw what others couldn't on his home world, that the fate of Innistrad was tilted too far in darkness's favor. While he and his people needed to drink the blood of mortals to survive, Sorin was no fool in believing that endlessly hunting humans, who had very few protections outside of these 4 flights of angels, would result in anything but their extermination. With humans hunted to extinction on Innistrad, his people, the vampires, would starve, and it would spell the very end of Innistrad. Sorin wouldn't let this grim future come to pass. The forces of light needed some help, a powerful weapon to push back the night, and thus he created Avacyn, the personification of human will and hope, the strongest angel Innistrad would ever know. Obviously, something like this tends to throw the status quo into question when the original 4 flights are just instantly subverted by a new, more powerful angel. But within moments of their first contact, the 4 sisters knew Avacyn was something different, something worthy of respect and admiration. This angel, wherever she came from, was here to help them, and thus, all 4 of their flights became subservient to the Grand Archangel Avacyn. And for the most part, they were right. Avacyn was created to protect the humans of Innistrad, and she did it with compassion and respect. She was militant in her desire to vanquish evil, but wouldn't do so at the loss of her empathy. Avacyn was the perfect symbol of humanity, and in her light, human society grew prosperous while the forces of darkness hid back to the shadows. Not completely gone, but no longer able to feast so fervently. However, not all was sunshine and rainbows in the Order of Angels. No, the black sheep of the family was still causing many issues for her sisters. Liesa's deals with the enemies, while promising and promoting human well-being, was seen as a stain on their holy war. Other, lesser angels didn't trust Liesa, who consorted with demons, and while her sisters would often give her a pass, their new leader, Avacyn, would have none of it. Upon learning that Liesa had again bargained with a demon lord, Avacyn excommunicated Liesa and her entire flight, vowing to scrub their church clean of these heretical friends of fiends. Although her actual sisters didn't take part in Avacyn's bloody civil war, they didn't stand in the Archangel's way either, as Avacyn single-handedly vanquished Liesa and her entire flight, rendering even utterance of her name forbidden. Over time, the legions of angels settled with Avacyn in command, and Innistrad really did enter a new, golden age for humans. While the angel who dared to broker with enemies rather than slaughter them, Liesa, faded to history. And that's the story of Liesa, Shroud of Dusk. But why is it important? Why is this card in Commander Legends such a big deal to the overall story of Innistrad? It has been a well-established legend in its own right. This story of a lost fourth sister, an entire flight of angels wiped out with no one knowing exactly what happened to them. This was especially true in our first trip to Innistrad, as we're looking to uncover what happened to Avacyn. This first time around, we only heard short, perspective thoughts from Gisela, Bruna, and Sigarda about their lost sister, reminiscing on their guilt as they reconcile with the loss of Avacyn, who was simply trapped in the Hell Vault. But this was brought up again in our return to Innistrad and the madness of Avacyn. Of course, Avacyn, being a pure being of light, had to be corrupted by another planeswalker, Nahiri, to lose track of her purpose. But in that madness fell Bruna and Gisela's flights as well. Sigarda, the only sane Archangel left, again thinks on how she and her sisters stood by as Liesa was killed by a vengeful, unstoppable Avacyn. How, if they could just beat back the darkness that resided in all of them, finding things to compromise on, how their fates could have been a lot different. In any case, the fabled story of the lost fourth Archangel has now been solved. We know it's Liesa and what her purpose was, and ultimately the reason she and her flight became a myth on Innistrad. Now I want to know how you guys expect to use Liesa Shroud of Dark in your own commander decks. Let me know your deck ideas and synergies in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, support us by leaving a like, subscribing, and ticking that notification bell so you never miss out on a new video's release. Again, the greatest support comes from those over on Patreon, who we like to give credit for at the end of our videos. Consider joining and checking out all the great perks that you can get by following the link in the description below. Of course, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time guys, see ya!